What is going on, Colts Nation? Welcome back to another episode of Bring the Juice. We have another live stream here for you. And of course, I had to bring on my guy, the legend Drake from Horseshoe Huddle. My guy, what's up, man?
Not much, man. There's, for being a weekend where the teams that are playing aren't even in, the Indianapolis Colts, and it's the Super Bowl. We sure have a lot to discuss regarding Colts football, and their season ended, multiple weeks ago. So, I'm pumped. There's a lot of fire out there all over social media. There's a lot of discussion to be had, and appreciate you having me on, man. More than happy to discuss this right now with you guys.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for being on. Guys, thank you for everybody who's tuning in right now. Be sure to like the stream, guys. Helps it get out to more and more people. Be sure to comment. Be sure to subscribe. All that great stuff. We're on the road to 18,000 subscribers. Hope you all are enjoying your Friday evening. Beautiful times out here in the Midwest. Enjoy it while you can. Instead of being outside like normal people, you're in here chilling with us. Who knows? Maybe you're watching it out on your back porch right now on your phone. That's what you should be doing. But anyways, thanks guys for tuning in. We do have a little bit to discuss. A bunch of different stuff outside. Who does that?
That's right.
Hey, I mean, sane Midwesterners who understand it's 60 degrees in the Midwest today. So, you do what you got to do. Horseshoe Talk Podcast. What's up, Drake? What's going on, everybody? How you doing? But listen, guys, we're gonna go ahead and hop into it. The first topic of today, and Drake, it's kind of a big one because Zaire Franklin's podcast with EJ Speed hinted at a very special guest being on their podcast this week, and of course, it is the Ghost. T.Y. Hilton made an appearance on their podcast today to talk about anything and everything that they could. But there's one topic in general that has stolen the show. And I think it's definitely worth something to talk about. And we're about to bring it up now. So, folks, they were asked, T.Y. was asked about this situation, and T.Y. was asked about whether or not what his thoughts were on Andrew Luck retiring midway through their season, through everything that was happening. And somewhere in that line, T.Y. Hilton had stated, if you didn't send him off that way, you might have gotten another Luck sighting, and said that is going to be what haunts Colts fans the most because you hurt him, in which they booed. Now he's referring to, in the way they sent him off, in referring to the crowd booing him as he was walking off the field when they heard the announcement that he was retiring. Drake, just before we get into like the actual comments themselves, what was your reaction when you heard this quote from T.Y. Hilton? Because me personally, I had to listen to it a couple times to make sure I was hearing it right.
Yeah, I actually had to use the scrolling feature on YouTube because they break it up into bits and they have little labels, and it says Andrew Luck sighting, not signing, which I know that's the first thing I thought was, you're telling me that Andrew Luck didn't stay in football because of booze? And so that's not what it was, but it just really, just to hear more about it, it sucks. It's a day that I remember when it first released. I thought it was a joke at first, but Ty is very close with Andrew Luck. He was always very close with Andrew Luck. That was pretty much his 2 to the 1-2 punch, and so it was really good that on the Trenches show they were able to kind of talk to him about it, and he kind of opened up about what Luck meant to him and just that fateful day, if you will. But yeah, it was definitely interesting to hear Ty talk about that day, because it really, you saw Andrew Luck walking off the field, that day. He looked absolutely miserable. You saw him in the post-game press conference. He looked absolutely miserable there. But it was also mismanagement on the Colts' part to announce, "Thank you, Andrew." It was just terrible timing by I think it was Adam Schefter that had tweeted it out. It wasn't necessarily his fault, but it was just.
I still do not. I still do not follow him to this day for that reason.
Yeah, it's like, you could have waited potentially. I know that
but of course had to be the one to break the news. Don't care whether or not it matters to the player. Only matters if I break the news first.
Yes, and that at the end of the day, it sucked to hear that, because that means that, maybe Andrew Luck would have been back to hit the anvil at this point. Maybe he would have been back to do something special with the team. Also mentioned the Ring of Honor. He'll be in that eventually. He absolutely will, and he deserves it. But yeah, it just sucked to kind of, hear it in depth and to get it brought up again. We're all still trying to recover from that 5 years ago. And, it sucks to hear it from TY because that it's very accurate, because he's not going to sit there and lie on the Trenches show with Zaire and with DJ.
Now here's the thing. So he's insinuating that, had Colts fans not booed him off, that I think from what I was gathering from comments made by a bunch of other people and from kind of what Zaire and TY and everything else was kind of mixed together, is TY was insinuating that he might have came back midway through that next season had he would have came back midway through the 2019 season had he felt like it was a better situation with the fans. That's what he's insinuating, is that the way the fans reacted hurt him so much that he just basically said, I don't want to do this anymore. Now, listen, we all don't know what TY and Andrew talked about in their off seasons or during the seasons or throughout the years. Okay. I'm sure Hilton has had occasional contact with Andrew every once in a while. And I'm sure that when this news first broke out, I'm sure TY was, at the forefront of a lot of this after the fact of the announcement. But I mean, we've all seen the clip, Drake, of when Andrew was telling Brissett on the sideline right before the news broke, and Jacoby couldn't believe it. And that is one of those things. It shocked everyone because no one knew except Chris Ballard and Jim Irsay at the time when the announcement first broke. And listen, I don't buy it. As much as I love and respect T.Y. Hilton, I don't buy the comment that he's trying to make. I don't buy it because you even heard Andrew Luck just a year and a half ago went on someone's podcast to talk about that fateful day. And he said that a month before the 2018 season ended, he had officially decided at that point, I don't want to play football anymore. He said, I hung around. I kind of I was lying to myself and saying that I didn't want, that I wanted to still be around, but I kind of just had already made up my mind that my heart's not in this anymore. And from that perspective, I look at it and I say, that's why I don't buy it, because the guy's mind was already made up. He had decided to retire. I don't think that a couple people booing at the fact that they knew he was retiring was the reason why we never got to see Andrew Luck in a Colts uniform again. I just don't buy it.
Yeah, and you got to think too. This was a guy that played through injury. I mean, this was a tough SOB at quarterback, and he played in front of sold out crowds. He had the mental fortitude to be able to climb his team in the playoffs out of a hole. Against the Kansas City Chiefs in one of the most spectacular comebacks I've ever seen. And this is a team that had Peyton Manning. So I also, you look at, I know this is something that's been just hammered into the ground, right? But it was a preseason crowd, very, very sparse crowd, very limited capacity, like how many people were actually there. And yes, you are talking about probably not your season ticket holders, your diehard Colts fans. Not saying it was cool. All right. You probably shouldn't have booed the guy. And no one's going to appreciate that. But yes, while I do think that there is a degree of validity to TY's comments on like, that's why you haven't seen him return, I guess, is because maybe he just feels like it was sour. Maybe he just doesn't want to relive that moment. I do agree that if he is insinuating that he would have returned that season, there's no way, because he mentally was done. He physically was still trying to push himself through it. And then he realized, this just isn't what I want to do. And, you saw guys retire after him, earlier in their careers, because, guys realized, hey, I've got a whole life ahead of me. I've made all this money. What's the point of living life, if I can't feel happy with my physical, constitution here? So, I mean, dude, he had gone through so many injuries at that point, season long ones, half a season. I mean, he had just come off the heels of a GM that was completely hapless in how he managed the team, and Ryan Grigson. And, it really sucked because, yes, they made the playoffs. Yes, they beat the Texans. They got to the divisional round and lost to the inevitable Kansas City Chiefs, who would go on and lose to the Patriots. So at the end of the day, though, man, like you said, no one's ever going to know, but I'm right there with you, man. I'm not saying TY is trying to drum up anything, because I really don't think he is, but I think that he's confident enough in Andrew Luck that he believes that maybe he would have come back, but I just don't see some booze deterring Andrew Luck from playing football. If he wanted to, he would have been there. He would have tried it.
Yeah. I totally agree. His mind was made up. I don't see it to where that would have been a thing. But it stinks that we have to keep bringing it up, because it's the thing that keeps getting brought up every off season.
Never goes away, man.
It'll never go away. And you know what? I want to tell fans that, like, it's never gonna go away. It never will. There will always be the people who say what could have been with Andrew Luck. There's always going to be that. And even if Indy wins another 2, 3, 4 Super Bowls in my lifetime, people will still be asking that. What would have been with Andrew Luck? It's just, at the end of the day, the only reason why it hurts so much right now is because the wound is still fresh. It's still that sort of situation where, I mean, Zaire Franklin and T.Y. Hilton mentioned it several times. 2019 was their year. It was their year to take the NFL by storm. Everyone talked about it. Andrew Luck came back in 2018. They won 9 of their last 10 in the regular season. They go on to face the Kansas City Chiefs. They lose in the divisional round against the Kansas City Chiefs, who end up going on to win the Super Bowl that year. Andrew Luck wins Comeback Player of the Year. You're bringing in these guys through free agency in the draft, where you're trying to build the defense. You're trying to build some more weapons on the offense for Andrew Luck. You had that number 1 offensive line. You felt really good about the Indy's chances in 2019 had this news not happened. But of course, that's what we're going to say is what could have been. It's all in the past, but it's still fresh because Indy hasn't found an answer for that since that retirement announcement happened.
Yeah, and that's the year that Patrick Mahomes started his 6-year-long streak of being in the AFC Championship. And I think that we get so lost in that we forget. I think that year he went to face Brady. Brady beat him. And then I think the Patriots won that stupid low-scoring game. So the next season, I think Kansas City won. But that's neither here nor there. You're absolutely right. They went out and got Devin Funchess. Okay. I think that was the year they got Justin Houston. I mean, they were banking on going broke, wanted to put as much around Andrew Luck and give him a defense, and it just didn't work out. And, that team was so talented, Derek, that people forget. Brissett had a 5-2 record, okay? He gets hurt, does not come back as the same guy, all right, after the Steelers game. Brian Hoyer fills in, and it's just a nightmare performance. It just really sucked to see Luck have to go out on such weird terms. And, look, Colts fans can say whatever they want, players, TY, they can all say whatever they want. At the end of the day, it was all about Andrew Luck's health. That's what was the most important thing. And I'm right there with you, man. At the end of the day, I just don't see some preseason booze from a very, based off of how much Lucas Oil can hold. I mean, you got the graphic right behind you, man. that place was not even probably a fourth of the way packed when they
Yeah.
booed him. Okay. He
Right.
did not quit football and keep his NFL career away forever because of some booze. It just did not happen that way. So it just sucks. But at the end of the day, you know, credit to Zaire Franklin and EJ Speed for bringing on TY and having that, you know, having that discussion. It's a tough discussion. I'm sure TY wasn't the happiest to have to talk about it, but regardless of, you know, if it made you happy or sad or angry or really, really pissed off, it's like you said, it's probably never going to go away. So get used to it.
Absolutely. Yeah, just embrace it, Colts Nation.
Embrace it,
Part
man.
of your legacy at this point.
That's right.
Everybody has those.
That's right.
But now let's kind of hop into some more cheery news before we hop into some more hot topic stuff here. Let's talk about some news of the Indianapolis Colts. 2 players nominated for a Hall of Fame entrance yesterday, and one of those did end up making it. Former defensive end Dwight Freeney was nominated to the Hall of Fame. And I mean, I couldn't be happier. He was one of the first players that I ever grew up just absolutely loving, Drake. When I was growing up, you know, the whole I wanted to go out there, and every time somebody was blocking me, I wanted to do the exact same spin move as that guy. The patented spin move sack that everyone hated and was just such a huge problem for them when it came to that. So, I mean, it definitely was a very interesting thing for sure. I mean, just looking at some of the stats, all-time stats through 11 years as a NFL player, played in 163 games, ended up with 125 sacks. I don't remember exactly where that is all time, but I'm pretty sure it's top 20 if I'm not mistaken. He won All-Pro Defensive Rookie of the Year that year, was an All-Pro second team and a Pro Bowler the next year, Defensive Player of the Year 2 times, first team All-Pro and Pro Bowler in 2004 and 2005, and then was announced as four more Pro Bowls after that, and a first team All-Pro in 2009. So Dwight Freeney with the Indianapolis Colts had a very long and successful career, even despite being undersized. What was your reaction to Dwight Freeney getting announced into the Hall of Fame, Drake?
Oh man, well deserved. That you know, what an absolute terrifying, you know, thought. If you're an offensive tackle, I can't remember if it was the top 100 players of some year, 2010, or if it was the top 100 all-time players, but they had Matt Light, who was a fantastic tackle for the Patriots. Just talk about how Dwight Freeney, he'd be there 1 second, the next he was gone. You know, he patented a move that a lot of guys cannot use very well. It's interesting because like he used it all the time. You knew it was coming. You couldn't stop it. Okay. He'd go underneath your arms. All right. He was just quicker than you. It wasn't just the spin move. He was also incredibly strong for someone who was just 6'1", 6'2". He's like 270, which is pretty small, you know, given the time he was playing in the NFL. But he played for the Colts for 11 years. In that time, he had 107.5 sacks. That means when he was with the Chargers, the Cardinals, the Falcons, the Lions, and the Seahawks, he only had 18 sacks. So almost his entire career production came from Indianapolis. He was a 7-time Pro Bowler. He was a member of the Hall of Fame All-2000s team. He's now a Hall of Famer, and he was a 3-time All-Pro. I think that's first team All-Pro. Just so he's got a couple second team All-Pro nominations in there as well. But man, I look at his rookie season. All right, there was so much doubt. Right, led the NFL right out of the gate. 9 fumbles forced. It's just like that's incredible. Led the NFL in tackles for loss. 20. Okay, so not only was he smacking quarterbacks across the face, this dude was also stopping the run. Okay, he was putting so much pressure on the QB, constantly. And then what just seemed to continue his consistency was when Robert Mathis came around. Then you've got them both just pinching quarterbacks. They don't even have to worry about, the pass rush at all. You've got all of that. You've got guys like Raheem Brock in the middle. Dwight Freeney, man, he really did strike fear into the hearts of any sort of offensive tackle that had to face him. And I think it's incredible. I think I'm looking at the all-time sack numbers, and you were absolutely right. He's at 125.5, but you got to think he's behind guys like John Abraham. Okay, he's behind guys like Lawrence Taylor. All right, he's behind guys like Derek Thomas, who was absolutely unstoppable for Kansas City back in the day. So I'm really pumped. I'm really pumped that Dwight Freeney got it, and I know that they put everything on there for them. Every single team goes in with him, right? He's an Indianapolis Colts member, though, right? He did it all with the Colts, and I also loved the video of when he was walking into a facility. I can't remember where it was, but Tony Dungy's just standing there with the gold jacket on, and it informs him he's a Hall of Fame member. And he just lost it. And you could see how much it meant to him. Because, this guy came out of Syracuse, again, undersized, and the people thought the Colts were crazy for taking him. And he was a first rounder, 11th overall.
And so he went the next 4 seasons having double-digit sacks.
Yeah, right out of the gate, rookie year, you forced 9 fumbles and 20 tackles for loss.
First 4 seasons, before this man even got paid, Drake, before he even got paid, made all pro every single year, was a defensive rookie of the year, Pro Bowler 3 of those 4 years, and first team all pro twice. Yeah. That's insane. And just to
the competition he faced was incredible.
Yeah. 11 years in Indy, and only 4 times did Dwight Freeney never make double-digit sacks. Only 4 out of those 11 years. And one of those years, he only played in 9 games, so he was hurt all the time. And then obviously as he got older with Indy, the production started dissipating. But it just goes to show you just how consistent he was. He used to have so many 10+ sack seasons. That 16 sack season in 2004. That's incredible. Any defensive end would love to have that many sacks in a season now. It's truly incredible. The career that he had. And, I think that's what the problem is you've kind of seen some of the last few seasons he had where he was transferring with all these different teams and, really wasn't getting any great production. 44 of those 47 forced fumbles that he accrued over his career was in Indy. 44 forced fumbles. That's insane. And especially his rookie year, like you said, 9 of them. That's incredible. That is truly incredible. It just goes to show you just how much of a difference maker he was. It wasn't just the sack totals. It was being able to, give opportunities to get the football back. It's just entering a mode where you just install fear in any left tackle that was out there, because nobody knew when that spin move was coming. And that was definitely a great thing, man. It's really awesome to see Dwight Freeney be in there. I can't wait to see more of that. And hopefully we continue to see him around Indy a lot more with that. But we got to talk about the other guy who didn't make it, Drake. And a lot of people very upset about it, including myself. I am totally flabbergasted that Reggie Wayne, once again, snubbed of the award. Some of the guys who have been brought up as to whether or not they should have made it in versus him. The 2 big names that came to mind were Andre Johnson, former Texans great at wide receiver, and also Bears wide receiver / punt return specialist, kick return, basically return specialist, Devin Hester. So Drake, before we get into all of it, I know you put out a tweet about this, and for people who haven't seen it or anything else, feel free to share your unpopular opinion of the Colts fan base about how you feel about one of these guys actually making it.
Yeah, so I put out. I basically said that it's going to get a very unpopular response, but I do feel like Andre Johnson was deserving to get in, but I felt like one of two scenarios should have happened for Wayne. Either one, they should have expanded how many people could get in, and they should have allowed him and Antonio Gates to get in along with everybody else. I know that there's not like a certain limitation. I'm not really sure of all the like finite rules. Fox 59's Mike Chappell would be perfect to talk to. He's on the Hall of Fame committee. But also Devin Hester, man, look, amazing electric player. He revolutionized what it meant to be a kick returner. But at the end of the day, man, he did not. How many times did his punt or kick returns win a game? How many times did his punt or kick returns decide an entire season where the Bears would get, or whoever, whatever other teams he did play for? Because I think, so he finished with Atlanta and then Baltimore and Seattle. But how often did Devin Hester make a massive difference in deciding a season, a playoff game, a Super Bowl? I'll tell you when. When the Colts played the Bears in the Super Bowl, he started off the game with a touchdown, and the Bears still did not win. Okay. I'm telling you that I truly believe, and I know he has all these All-Pro nominations and everything else, but you could have waited a year and gotten Reggie Wayne, who, by the way, is 10th all-time in receptions. All right. Andre Johnson is right behind him. I mean, these two are like neck and neck on so many levels with their numbers. But yeah, man, Devin Hester, I do believe he could have waited an extra year. I think that Wayne's been waiting for long enough, like 4 years now, and I will say, and I didn't put this in the tweet. I did not put this in the tweet. If you're talking about which person deserves to get in over the other, Andre Johnson or Reggie Wayne, it should be Reggie Wayne. And that's not biased. It's because he's been waiting longer. It's because he's ahead in a lot of all-time categories. Andre Johnson deserves to be in for no other reason than his best quarterback was Matt Schaub. Okay. I mean, this dude it was a disgusting QB situation in Houston, and the dude just still went out there and destroyed everybody. But Reggie Wayne, he's been on the ballot for longer, and he's just been waiting. So I think that next year there's no choice. I think that if they skip him again, you're going to see a riot in downtown Indianapolis. But it's going to be a debate that's going to not simmer down, Derek, for quite a while. But at the end of the day, man, I do think that Wayne and Antonio Gates got snubbed from the Hall of Fame, man.
Yeah, Gates definitely is the crazy one. He's like literally second in almost every statistical category of a tight end ever. I mean, that's talk about a guy that was a model of consistency for over a decade. I mean, that dude was like the tight end. Nobody ever really cared to say anything about it, but he was elite. In regard to this decision, so I've seen a lot. It's been a lot of the Texans fans and Colts fans arguing with each other about this, about, why Andre Johnson deserved to get in over Reggie. And the most common response is, and it's something you had mentioned, Reggie Wayne had Peyton Manning throwing in the football versus who Andre had as, whatever quarterback they had, was not near the level in which the Colts quarterbacks were. Now, that is 100% true, 100%. But I still hate the argument that we're going to downgrade someone doing something great just simply due to the fact that he had a Hall of Fame quarterback and a would have been Hall of Fame quarterback had he not suffered all of his injuries throwing him the football. I hate that we're discrediting people for who they played with. You should be praising the things that they do, not tearing them down or giving other people better treatment simply due to the fact that they did more with less in that kind of regard in regards to personnel. I know that's the way of life, and how it goes, but I hate that we do it. And the main problem I have with some of the arguments, the second biggest argument that was made, or the one reason that I can bring that argument down, is Andre Johnson was always the number one wide receiver. Always the number one. It didn't matter who his quarterback was. You had an NFL quarterback throwing to him over 10 times a game. We know this. It's a fact. He was the number one every time he ever stepped on the football field. Reggie Wayne, for the majority of his career, was number two. He was the number two guy in that offense behind Marvin Harrison Jr., another all-time great wide receiver, Hall of Famer, and still with less usage than Andre Johnson and being behind a great, still got more numbers, if not better numbers, than Andre Johnson as a number two versus a number one. And I will stand by that. Again, I don't care if it was Peyton Manning, Matt Schaub, or if it was or if Roger Goodell wanted to go out there and throw footballs to Reggie Wayne on Sundays. I don't care. At the end of the day, he was a number two wide receiver, still put up Hall of Fame numbers for the majority of his career. And there's a high likelihood that he does not end up getting in to the Hall of Fame over some other guys who did far less. And I'm not even talking about Andre Johnson at this point. I'm talking more of the Devin Hester situation than anything else. Because like you said, Drake, when it comes to Devin Hester, I know he was the most elite guy at doing that one particular thing that's part of the game than anyone ever has in the history of the NFL. But the problem is like you said, just because you do something elite, it doesn't make it as valuable as everything else that has happened. I guarantee Reggie Wayne has always been a more pivotal piece in an offense than Devin Hester ever was in the return game. I mean, like you said, the most important game that he's ever played in Devin Hester, he had a touchdown in that Super Bowl. His team still went on to lose, even though his team scored first and everything else. So, I mean, it's one of those situations where, man, like we gotta understand this. I mean, Reggie Wayne is a top 15 wide receiver, in my opinion, all time. And this is and we're going to seriously keep that guy out of the Hall of Fame just because he played with Peyton Manning and that he was number two on his team. Like, come on, man. Just like, let's make the right decision here. Reggie Wayne deserves to be in.
Yeah. And okay. So to put some context to Reggie Wayne's numbers. Okay. He played with Manning from 2001 all the way until 2000. And I'm going to stop here at 2007. And the reason I mentioned that, keep in mind, Marvin Harrison at that point was already starting to hit more of like a decline. Okay. He was getting a little bit older. Sorry about the dog. So 2007, Harrison only plays 5 games. He got hurt. All right. Reggie Wayne basically was the number one receiver. All right. He goes out there and has a career high in receiving yards. Okay. So he goes from number 2 to number 1, just like that. All right. He has 104 catches, 1,510 receiving yards, and he has 10 touchdowns. And then in 2008, Harrison retires. So all that Wayne does in 2009 and 2010, Manning's last seasons, he puts up 100 catches and then 111 catches. And then put more context into this. The Colts have Curtis Painter, Kerry Collins, and Dan Orlovsky. Okay. One couldn't last in the NFL as a backup. The other one, the only Super Bowl he went to, he got destroyed by the Baltimore Ravens. And the other guy works for ESPN, I believe, or like Dan Orlovsky's an analyst now. Okay, professional analyst. All right, Wayne went out there and still caught 75 balls, 960 yards. And then in 2012, he has a rookie in Andrew Luck. Andrew Luck targeted this man 195 times in 16 games. All Reggie Wayne does is catch 106 of those passes with a rookie for 1,355 receiving yards and 5 touchdowns. And he had 73 first downs, which, by the way, tied his best that he ever he ever had. So Reggie Wayne, dude, he did all that with multiple quarterbacks, okay, and one of which was a rookie. One year he had 3 bums throwing him the football. Okay, not to say Orlovsky can't throw a ball, but by NFL standards, Orlovsky was a bum. He was a very low level backup. So it's like, I just feel like Reggie Wayne, he got passed over because people for years were banging the table that Devin Hester deserved to be in the Hall of Fame. I just feel like he completely got glossed over in this case. And so, people can say what they want. It means something to these guys. Okay. It really does, to be put in football immortality. Like that bust, it might just look to us like, oh, that's just someone's head. That's just someone's face in Canton. Dude, it means so much more than people think. All right. When you just go watch when Dwight Freeney found out he's a Hall of Famer, he absolutely was overjoyed to see that it was coming from the coach that drafted him, that the regime that drafted him. So, yeah, man, Reggie Wayne's numbers, they are very, very overlooked. And people, when they talk about the Wayne era, they talk about Marvin Harrison a lot. They think about Dallas Clark. They think about Manning and Edger and James. And I get it, dude. But man, Reggie Wayne was absolutely integral. And once Harrison shipped out and he retired, Reggie Wayne did nothing but produce. And to go back to the Hester argument, does Devin Hester's kick return defeat the New England Patriots in 2009 in one of the most exciting final finishes, of the NFL season, and one of the most memorable Colts moments when Belichick couldn't get it on 4th and 1? No, Reggie Wayne did. And that was consistent. Reggie Wayne was the guy to go to. Hell, the first game the Colts won in 2011, Dan Orlovsky threw Reggie Wayne the game-winning touchdown, man. I mean, he almost got him out of the Andrew Luck sweepstakes, as Pat McAfee likes to repeat over and over. So Reggie Wayne deserves it, man. I think that next year it's undeniable. I think you must give him that Hall of Fame designation, and if you don't, there's something in the cosmos out there. If they don't give it, make him a 2025 inductee. I don't know, man. I would think that there's somebody in the Hall of Fame committee that's against Reggie Wayne, but yeah, he, by all regards, he definitely got. I don't want to say screwed over, right? Because I don't think there's someone out there to get him in the Hall of Fame committee, but he definitely got looked over for a returner, in my opinion.
Yeah, it definitely has left a sour taste in everyone's mouth if you are a Colts fan. But I do have a strong feeling that his time will come. I really do. I think that Reggie's going to get it. We'll just have to wait one more year, I guess.
Yeah.
But we'll see. We'll see how this goes. But I wanted to bring up the Antonio Gates thing real quick before we move on. This guy posted, 20 hours ago, how is Gates not a first ballot Hall of Famer yet? 955 receptions, third amongst tight ends, 11,841 receiving yards, third all time. I think only Travis Kelce and Gronk have more receiving yards throughout their careers. 116 touchdowns, first in tight end, 7th among all players. So top 10 in all of NFL history in touchdowns, not just tight ends altogether. So that tells you anything. 6 all-pro teams and the 2000s all-decade team. So 2000s, he was one of the best players throughout the entire decade at that time. So, yeah, I mean, again, just absolutely insane that a guy with those kinds of numbers is not in the Hall of Fame. I mean, we're sitting over here debating Reggie Wayne and Andre Johnson when that shouldn't even be a discussion.
Yeah, and Antonio Gates, it's really interesting because you've heard about guys like Jimmy Graham. You've heard about guys. I mean, hell, Mo Alley Cox. These guys that come out of college basketball. And they've got these freakish athletic abilities, and they can make it in the NFL. Well, this guy right here, you can't put Jimmy Graham even at his height. You can't put Mo Alley Cox even in the same freaking atmosphere as Antonio Gates. This guy had no college football experience. He came from Kent State as a basketball player, and all he does is just go out there and destroy everybody. He started with 24 receptions, and then immediately 81, 89, 71, 75, 60, 79, 50, 64, 49, 77. He was just ridiculously consistent until 2017 and 18, which is he was 37 and 38 years old. Okay. So, man, you think about those teams and when they were the San Diego Chargers, he had Drew Brees throwing him the ball in his early career. And then he had Phillip Rivers absolutely dropping. I mean, how many times did Colts fans see this dude haunt their dreams? I mean, every time you seem to face the Chargers, Phillip Rivers was the most hated guy by all the Colts fans. It's so funny that he ended up playing for him. But like Antonio Gates, man, just the model of consistency. He had 4 different seasons with 10 or more touchdowns. I mean, that was unheard of from tight ends. Before Gronk comes running along and before guys like Travis Kelce come running along. I mean, he revolutionized with Tony Gonzalez the tight end position. He changed the wide tight end. I know Michael Lombardi, who's a former general manager in the NFL, is like, what in that? Basically, in an X post, he's like, what the hell is wrong with this committee? Like, basically, he's like, how can you not put Antonio Gates in the Hall of Fame? It's to me, it's crazy. It's almost actually, dare I say it is as crazy as the Reggie Wayne argument. He was so integral in those dominant Chargers teams with LaDainian Tomlinson, with guys like Vincent Jackson, all those guys. I mean, Phillip Rivers, you take away Antonio Gates. I'm not saying Rivers couldn't have his crafty ways, still get them to the playoffs multiple times, but good Lord, man, to negate Antonio Gates from this. I mean, you got to think from 2004, dude, until 2010. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 straight years, he has at least 8 touchdowns. That's just ridiculous. I don't know a tight end that has that consistent of touchdowns over such a long span. Gronk
only the elite ones.
Only the elite ones
that are
maybe Travis Kelce and Gronk couldn't stay healthy enough. Okay, so like. Yeah. And if people are talking about Travis Kelce as the greatest tight end of all time.
There's only like 3 tight ends in the NFL right now that could do that.
Yeah.
And that's Travis Kelce, George Kittle if they used him more, and Mark Andrews if he stayed healthy.
Yep.
That's about it. It's the only guys that could maybe do that.
Yeah, and Gates was damn near healthy all the time. And one more thing. In 2010, that's when his 10 or his at least 8 touchdown streak ended. Dude only played 10 games, had 10 touchdowns. I mean,
a touchdown every game.
Touchdown every damn game, man. So yeah, he got snubbed too. Yeah. So it was an interesting Hall of Fame. Let's just say that. Colts fans weren't the only fans I think that were upset. I think Chargers fans are probably not the happiest either that a guy who helped revolutionize the tight end position and was as efficient as you can be. It's almost like he wasn't even thought of.
Yeah.
So.
Absolutely. All right. Well, we can kind of end this on one more thing here. We can chat this up with the last little conversation. First pick in the draft, man, for Indy, that 15th overall pick. What's your mindset for Indianapolis going into that pick? Are you team trade down? Are you team trade up? Are you thinking it's best player available? They're really not looking for a specific position. What are you thinking?
They need in order of importance, this is just opinion. I think it's cornerback. I think it's cornerback. I think it's wide receiver, and I think it's pass rusher. Now, that just alone tells me that they're not going to trade back. That tells me that they're not going to trade up. I think that they're going to take the best available of those 3 because you could use the number 15 pick could be used on any one of those 3, and you could probably still get a pretty effective corner or wide receiver hypothetically in the second round because they have a pick each round. So, if they go defensive end and you see Leatu, sitting there from UCLA, I think that they really liked him. I think that that's a fit. But then you have Quinyon Mitchell, looked absolutely phenomenal from Toledo. You've got, a bunch of different receivers that you could actually get in later rounds. So I would dare say they're going to get a defensive back. But I will say, let's say all hell breaks loose. Okay. And, due to some pictures of him looking a little smaller than people probably thought, if Brock Bowers does fall to 15, I don't think the Colts can pass on him. I understand, tight end. Okay. This guy is the closest thing I've seen to Dallas Clark. Dude, I mean, you could branch him out. You could have him inline. You could have him outside. He's a mismatch nightmare. The dude is he's one of the best tight end prospects I've ever seen on film. So I think that, if he's sitting there, the Colts will take him. I personally think he's going to Denver. That's just my prediction, either that or the Chargers, but I think they need a corner and then a wide receiver. I don't think they're going to take a defensive end.
My brother decides to come in here and says, I'll donate $100 to the stream if we don't trade back at me. All right. So Ballard just can't help himself.
Oh, man, if he does, that's crazy. The only way he does that is if his
if he has like 2 or 3 guys that say Ballard trades back to like the early 20s, or even the late teens, just a couple spots where maybe he's able to pick up, like a 3rd rounder in addition, maybe that would be something he would do. Hey, listen, that could be a thing, but Mitch, don't you think I will forget that? I will 100% remember that. You will 100. If we do not trade back in that first round, I will be texting you for my $100 and I will show it on stream. So,
dude, man, that would be I think either your scenario, or if they're at 15 or they're approaching it and Ballard goes, well, all the guys I wanted are gone, I just still think he goes best available.
Here's the thing, my thing on the Brock Bowers thing, and I want you to, and we'll end it on this. And I know you say you go get going here in a little bit, but we can have a 5-minute conversation on this. I am all for the hype train of get Brock Bowers at 15 if he's there, or even if you feel like you need to trade up a few spots to go and try and get him. If you feel that confident in him to be able to do that, go and do it. Cause I feel that strongly about him. And, I hear all the arguments. Believe me,
there's plenty
over the last month, had to listen to everyone tell me why it won't happen or it shouldn't happen. One of the big ones I get is we have too many tight ends, or he's just a tight end. We don't need a tight end. We need wide receiver, or we need another position of need. And my problem is with that is anyone who just looks at Brock Bowers and sees, oh, he's that tight end out of Georgia, doesn't actually watch Brock Bowers's film and doesn't realize the kind of player that he actually is. He is in such a way like a young version of a Travis Kelce. And it's really like that. He is a tremendous route runner. He is a wide receiver in a tight end's body. And he's not even like a huge size, which again, just reminds you is he's an athlete. He's an athlete. He knows how to move. He is like that. And I'm all for the get weapons on your team. I don't care where they're from or what position they play. You need to get as many weapons for Anthony Richardson as you can possibly get to be able to make that work. And I get the argument that people make for cornerback. If Indianapolis says that they need another young corner to be able to complete the secondary, then I'm all for that. But I'm also sitting there thinking to myself, I know Juju Brents is going to have a good second year if he stays healthy. I believe in Dallas Flowers. Even though a lot of people don't, I believe in Dallas Flowers.
Yeah,
I think Kenny Moore's coming back. So your starting guys are good there. And there's plenty of good corners in the draft that you can still get good depth later on.
Yes.
And then the other argument I hear, it's the only other one, is he will not make it to 15. And I say the same thing to everyone. Jackson Smith and Jigba from last year was everywhere a unanimous top 10 pick. Gets drafted to 20 to the Seattle Seahawks. Why? It made no sense. Everyone said he was the best wide receiver in the whole draft class. Got picked at 20. And everyone said, oh, the Chargers will just get him, or another team will get him. Like, the Chargers need offensive line help in the absolute worst way possible. They don't need more weapons. They need offensive line to protect that $250 million quarterback that they have back there. They don't need another weapon in Brock Bowers. So I just tell people anything can happen. There are plenty of opportunities to get Brock Bowers here. I just think a lot of people don't want to get Brock Bowers.
Well, yeah, and you also have to think, I mean, everyone had Will Levis as a top 10 quarterback, falls to the second round. All right. I mean, anything can happen, period. And like a great a great example of why do you get a guy like Brock Bowers? Look no further than Sam Laporta for the Detroit Lions. Okay. Has over 80 catches, has over 800 yards, has 10 freaking touchdowns. By the way, he's 6'3", 245. Brock Bowers is 6'4", about 235.
Yeah.
Don't put it past Brock Bowers to put on a little bit of muscle. Okay.
Yeah.
I guarantee you the strength coaches for Indianapolis or whoever, they're going to be like, look, man, you got to put on some muscle. You got to get a little bit bigger. Bernard Ryman did it.
Yeah.
And he absolutely changed his entire game, became one of the top tackles in the league. Okay. Yeah. So you can develop these guys. The way that they're drafted is not who they're going to be by the time they play. All right. Physically, mentally, emotionally, even. You can help mold them to an NFL lifestyle. So to the people that are against it, if you are against it and you have seen Brock Bowers' tape, respect. Totally understand that opinion. Okay. It's an opinion. Trust me. No one should be hawking on anybody for an opinion. But if you haven't watched the tape and you're totally against it, I just urge you, go watch some of this dude's tape. I haven't seen a tight end like him in a long freaking time. And again, I go back to the Sam Laporta argument. It really changed Detroit's offense. I mean, it really made them diverse. It opened up the middle and opened up for everything for guys like Amon-Ra St. Brown, for that running game, for Jared Goff. I mean, man, a tight end. I understand. I'll stop. I'll wrap up with this. Jelani Woods is one of my favorite players on the Colts. But when it's a hamstring injury that keeps you out for an entire season, that is concerning. All right. Will Mallory, he's got high potential, but he's got a long way to go, I think, before he hits his full potential. Kylan Granson is who he is. He's a guy that's probably not going to catch a lot of touchdowns. He's not going to outmuscle a lot of people. He's a move tight end. And Mo Alley-Cox is the biggest question mark still on the Colts tight end roster. And the dude's been with the team since like 2018, and he just does not produce very well. So, I mean, again, Brock Bowers isn't just going to be a tight end. If they draft him with a guy like Shane Steichen, give me a break, man. They're going to move that dude all over the freaking field and force mismatches all over the place.
Oh, easy. I mean, that is a mismatch nightmare.
He'll know exactly where to put him. He's too fast for linebackers and too big for defensive ends.
With Brock Bowers. I hate it.
He's almost always a mismatch.
Yeah, totally.
Almost always.
What are some realistic receiver options at 15? Who do you think is there at 15?
Oh, man. Let me see this real quick. I actually had this up and then I took it. Here we go. So I think if they do, let's say the Colts go at 15. All right. I think that what you're going to see is obviously, so everyone's talking about Adonzi and Neighbors. Those guys will be gone. Probably top 10.
Okay.
I think that you're thinking Brian Thomas Jr. I do not see Keon Coleman being picked. I think that Michael Pittman is going to get re-signed, and I think that that's the same guy. Yeah, they also have Pierce. So Pierce is the same guy as Coleman. So I think that I'll say this. I think it's Brian Thomas Jr. realistically, because if it goes past that, they're not gonna reach for a receiver. But if Malik Neighbors falls, I think that's realistic. Or if hell freezes over, and let's say Bowers is off the board and Rome Odunze's sitting there, they'll take him. Like that. It's hard though, because for receivers, they're not getting Harrison Jr. They're probably not getting Odunze or Neighbors. Realistically, it's Brian Thomas Jr., who's also from LSU like Neighbors. Or if for some reason they really reach for Xavier Worthy, that's another explosive player. But
I don't see that. I see that as second round.
Brian Thomas Jr. is the 27th ranked overall player, 4th ranked wide receiver based off of CBS. So I think that's the fit right there, because the other three guys I think will be gone.
And I know that Ballard drafted a small wide receiver in Josh Downs. But they know they didn't trade up to go and get him though.
Third round,
you know,
too.
yeah. So like,
Third round.
I
He
doubt
felt
that Ballard is going to stretch for another small wide receiver like a Xavier Worthy.
That's not very Ballard-like.
Yeah, it's not. Even if Steichen convinces him that Xavier Worthy is just another thing, that is what it is. Mitchell saying, I will never give up on the hope that MHJ is still an option until he is drafted.
If they trade up and give everything up for him,
we all want to believe that in some way, shape, or form, MHJ makes his way to Indy. But I mean, here's the funny thing. If the Colts trade up to pick number 5 to do it, then yes, I see that as a very optional thing because I think the first 4 picks are going to be quarterbacks. Or at least the first 3. I know that for a fact. You might have to trade up to number 4 for the Arizona Cardinals to be able to do it. But the first 3 picks are going to be quarterbacks. Outside of that, I don't see a situation where Arizona does not take MHJ. Honestly, I don't see a scenario in which they don't. You've already got the left tackle situated. They feel that they've got a good quarterback in Kyler Murray that can still do some good things if you revamp the roster. You just have to finally give him some good weapons. You didn't re-sign his one weapon that he had back from when he was actually good with Christian Kirk, and you just let him walk, and he hasn't been the same since because you haven't gotten him any kind of help. So get him some help.
Yeah, and look, I'll say this: if the Colts, let's hypothetically say they trade up, okay, it's just terrifying, but also awesome, right? It's awesome because it's MHJ, and I saw a post recently that's like, oh well, he's not a generational prospect. Whatever, dude. Shut up.
Whatever,
dude.
The whole point of a generational prospect is a prospect that you deem to be one of the best that you've ever seen.
That's
and
right.
He definitely is.
Yeah, and so if they do that, it's awesome because they're getting MHJ and they're getting one hell of a receiver that is probably going to be absolutely fantastic in the NFL. But the scariest part of that is I know that Carolina got fleeced in that trade up to get to number 1, but you would have to give away so much when your team still needs areas addressed. I know people talk about wide receiver, corner, and edge rusher potentially. You also need a depth interior tackle. You also still need more depth at corner. Maybe they're trying to push Nick Cross, okay, and they need a safety. All right, they need more. They need more than just wide receiver, man. They got some glaring depth issues in multiple spots, and I even say wide receiver.
And they also aren't the Kansas City Chiefs, where for an absolute fact that Patrick Mahomes gives you the probability to win every single time, regardless of what you do outside of that.
Your number 1 receiver's a rookie, dude.
They could literally trade away their entire draft class, not sign anyone in free agency.
That's right.
And all this stuff to go get MHJ. And what's going to happen next year? They're going to compete for a Super Bowl because they know, because they got Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. And as much confidence as I have in Anthony Richardson to turn it around and be healthy, at the same time, you still don't know, right? So you got to be smart about how you approach this stuff. You cannot immediately throw your entire future into it. You can throw your really near future at it, but not your entire future at it yet.
Yeah. If you're a step away from the Super Bowl, all right, and you got the quarterback guaranteed. You know that, there's maybe one other spot that you can address in the 3rd, 4th, 5th round. Perfect. You can't do it if you're the Colts. So that's why I don't think it's going to happen, is because Ballard knows that. He probably wants him. Of course he does. But like,
of course,
what you want and what you need, 2 completely different things, especially in the NFL, man. You just think about this. Jim Harbaugh is now in the AFC. Okay, the AFC is a fucking bloodbath, dude. It is a bloodbath. And Patrick Mahomes is there too. And CJ Stroud, Rookie of the Year, is in your division. Guess what? Now Will Levis has Brian Callahan, who's a fantastic offensive mind. Guess what? the Jags, I know that Lawrence might be underperforming based off of number 1 pick standards. They still have Trevor freaking Lawrence, who by all
And
rights has been beating the Colts. Yeah, you can't beat the Colts. Yeah, you can't. You got to look at, just forget about the AFC. Look at the division.
Yep.
You know, you got some serious dogs in that division, and the coaching staff is ridiculous for all 4 teams. It's turning into one of the more intriguing and young and exciting divisions in the league, and you just can't give it all up, man. So I think Ballard knows that. So
absolutely. All right. Well, we will end it there. I've taken enough of this man's time.
Marathon.
I would love to have this guy on for another 2 hours to discuss anything and everything, but I know he's got a life to get back to. Drake, thank you once again, man, for hopping on here and doing another live stream with me, man.
Yeah, no, it was fun, and anytime I can, I'll be more than happy to. And Colts fans know that the Reggie Wayne stuff stings, but 2 things. Number 1, I truly believe that they have no choice but to induct him next season. I think the class so far is so weak; it'd be so pathetic if they skip him. But number 2, just be happy he's on our side. Be happy he's with the Indianapolis Colts coaching those receivers, because I would be very sad if he was coaching for another team, because he'd be pissed. So
yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, that'll do it for this one, guys. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Greatly appreciate it. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, all that great stuff. Thank you so much for tuning in. And as always, go Colts.